Hello everybody, it's me again. Topic of the day, Syria and World War III. This is a pretty easy one. I'm not going to really spend too much time on it because, well, there's already a lot of information out there. I don't know you guys have been paying attention, looking up the news sites and whatnot. But, I'm just going to go ahead and point out a few things as far as, like a couple points in the history, and then what it's led up to thus far, and what I think it pertains to as far as what some people would call the fall of Damascus, or the burden of Damascus, leading up to the World War III, or the starting of World War III. Well, back in 2001, we had or 2011, I mean, we had the Arab Spring, pretty much engulfed the entire Middle East. There's some sources that say that that Al-Qaeda and the Obama administration had a lot to do with that, riling them up, trying to get the whole democracy thing going on. And this may just be my opinion, but I think it's a pretty good one. That area, it's not really suited for democracy right now, because the last few hundred years they've been really held back as far as intellectual and cultural development, especially so in the cases of areas that had Sharia law implemented. They've been living under a theocracy pretty much for a majority of that area's, if you can call it civilized existence. But hell, we all know it. That shit's been a big fucking powder keg since before some of our families came here. Anyways, the Arab Spring started 2011, went through the whole year. It started off as a popular movement. The Bashar al-Assad and his family pretty much had been ruling that country for 40 plus years, and after a certain amount of time, you could see how that would kind of get tiresome, being under the thumb of the same family. So respects, whatever. The thing that a lot of people don't understand is it started out as a popular movement, and it wasn't really going anywhere. The tear gas was shot, the police came out, it's basically the same kind of shit we see here in America whenever we go out and try to do our First Amendment. Like Occupy, they got their shit stomped. I'm sorry, but you guys got your shit stomped. Didn't accomplish much. This is pretty much the same kind of thing that happened with Syria. They went out, tried to do their occupy our country, get our democracy going. Didn't work out too well for them. Since this is a crossroads, so to say, the entrance into the Silk Road of old, there's a lot of interests that are converging on this point, and a lot of it has to do with a pipeline, or two pipelines actually. One of the pipelines is supposed to be coming from Qatar and Saudi Arabia's liquid natural gas lands that are down there that they share. That's one side of the whole thing. Well, I'll go ahead and list off that side. It's Qatar, Saudi Arabia, basically a majority of the EU, the United States, somewhat Israel. Israel's kind of on the fence about it because they see the benefit of getting rid of Assad, but then they also see the negative of getting rid of Assad. And with Israel being on the fence, I can understand that because they have Iran to worry about, and spillover from Syria coming up from the north is just going to make their world a living hell. So far they've only been acting in retaliation or preemption of something that they feel would be a threat to them. I guess I can understand their perspective on that. But yeah, you also have the terrorist group Hamas that is on the Sunni side. And let me go ahead and note this: Syria is a Shia-run country, just like Iraq was. It's the Ba'ath Party. Same ideology, different two states. The Ba'ath Party was in Iraq, and they got toppled. Whenever the United States, not the United States of America, but the United States went in there and started blowing shit up. Iraq and Iran and Syria, I think, were the only real serious sites of power for Shia. Even though they had Sunni majorities, the Shia enjoyed the dominance of power in those three states. Well, Iraq, gone. No more. You have sectarian violence, and most of that leadership is comprised of Sunnis. I feel that it's going to be the same way. If there's intervention in Syria, that the Shia, even though they're a lot more sectarian oriented, like not as forceful in their Islamic ways as the Sunnis may be, or other Shia countries, like particularly Iran. They've been, as far as I can recall, the most polite towards the sectarian kind of diversity of society. They allowed Christians in there to worship freely. They have a lot of great Christian churches over there that are really were really marvelous to behold to one's eye, and not anymore. I mean, I don't mean to laugh as as if it's funny, but yeah. Anyways, you have Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United States, a lot of the EU, Israel on the fence, and Hamas. Oh yeah, and don't let me forget, you have the Al-Nusra Front and Al-Qaeda on the side of the opposition. This is all opposition here, and basically this opposition's fighting for Saudi Arabia and Qatar's pipeline through Syria. Syria's a hub, believe it or not, because there's a pipeline that heads out throughout Turkey, just right north of it, and this pipeline that would be going through Syria, it would be coming out of the Mediterranean, and the United States would be getting a good part of that. Syria would definitely benefit, really, in either category, dependent upon who's in charge. Now, al-Assad, he's wanting to go with the other pipeline, who will benefit his ally, Iran. That's understandable. This pipeline's supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, coming from Iran and going, west-northwest through the area there, the steppe lands, the stands, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, and all those places of the old Soviet bloc. Yeah, it's supposed to be going through there, hit up Syria, and then there's another piece that's supposed to be connecting up north to where Russia would be able to get some of that power and that energy. Well, on that side, fighting for that particular pipeline, you have Iran, China, of course, Syria as it is now. Let's see. Yeah, Russia, Iran, China, and state Syria, as well as Hezbollah. Now, Hezbollah and Hamas both, I don't care what you say about them, they're both, known terrorist groups. Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra Front, both named terrorist organizations. And, they're, in my perspective, in my point of view, there's no side that we can choose that's going to be good for us. Like, honestly, I think that we should just completely pull out of that area right there, leave them alone to blow each other up, and pretty much commit to what we're supposed to be as a republic, a non-interventionist, society. That's what I believe that we should be doing. But anyways, yeah, this whole civil war, I have the feeling that the destabilization of the entire Middle East through the Arab Spring was a staged thing. I believe that this stuff going on in Syria is a staged event. Because if you think about it, what does the dollar exist on? It exists on petrol and fossil fuels. So, you put 2 and 2 together, you don't get 5, like they tell you to get. Whenever you look at it in a common sense and really practical manner, you have 4 from 2 and 2. It's about the pipelines. It's always been about the resources. It's always been about the resources. It's why we went into Afghanistan. They have over $3 trillion worth of natural resources they have untapped. Now, you can't tell me that we just went there for the fucking poppies, or to get rid of the Taliban. That's bullshit. We wouldn't go over there unless there was some money to be made. Because I'm sorry, the military-industrial complex will not do it unless they know that they can get some kind of future from it. Yeah. Anyhow, I mean, same thing with Iraq. Once we kicked Saddam's ass and got him hanged or whatnot, the oil started flowing again. I mean, it's simple enough. It's simple said. Keep it simple, stupid. Anyways, I don't think anything good is going to be coming from this. It doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like anything ever will. I honestly think that we should just step back and let it run its course. Stop, feeding arms into terrorists. Stop giving money over there. No aid whatsoever. Just completely cut off that area from, from anything of ours. Now, the correlation with World War III. I know there's a lot of Christians out there that like to quote the burden of Damascus, of which I mentioned earlier, from the Bible. And I don't like stepping on toes. I don't like saying that, that a book is wrong or right unless, there is some absolute concrete, stuff to lead me one way or another. But as far as like the Bible goes and the story of the burden of Damascus, that it's been the ancient city that hasn't really fallen, hasn't been destroyed, like most, if not all, the others. It's really troubling to see like a lot of what's going on now reflected in the sections and chapters that talk about the burden of Damascus and the fall of Damascus and its relevancy to World War III, the one big war, Armageddon, and good versus evil and all that stuff. it's really deep whenever you think about it. And you know, with all the distractions I've had, you know, over the past week or so, I haven't really been able to sit down and, you know, do some real hardcore philosophy on it. And I've spoken with a few people who have had that time, and they kind of imparted some of their wisdom on it to me on the phone. And it's really deep. I would suggest looking at it because, I mean, you can learn a lot from history. I mean, it's just like, you know, the people say, you know, history repeats itself for those who don't pay attention. And, you know, that's not just speaking on an individual level. You know, whenever the collective mind of humanity, the collective knowledge of humanity forgets about something or doesn't pay too much attention to it, it's going to happen again. You know, you keep on making mistakes until you learn, and it's really apparent we haven't learned yet. Yeah. Anyways, I don't think that any action we make as well, I don't want to say we. Any action the United States government makes will be good for any of us, unless they just completely, you know, put up a wall and say, you know, to fuck with it. We're not going to fuck with you guys. Just do your own thing. Leave us out of it. I know that's not going to happen because, you know, we have corporatism in America, and the military-industrial complex needs their oil. So, I mean, like either way I look at the thing, we're going to be heading to the big one, and you know, it's going to spill over here. There's no doubt about that. You're going to see, you know, sleeper cells pop up. You're going to see, you know, people crossing the border, causing all kinds of mayhem and havoc. The way that our politicians are talking to us about this and are handling this, in particular, the Obama appointees and you know, press secretary, you know, Secretary of State, you know, all these people that are going along with this and pushing for this and beating the war drums and rattling the sabers, and President Obama himself, you know, they're fucking traitors. They're fucking traitors. They're wanting to aid and comfort a named enemy of the Republic. I don't know about you, but last time I checked the Constitution, that was the definition of what our founding fathers wrote down as treason in the Constitution. And last I checked, the punishment for that was death. Let that sink in. Anyways, for the Congress people who aren't making much of an effort or much of a holler about you know, no intervention or no action to Syria whatsoever, they're just as guilty. They're guilty by compliance, complicity. You know, they're letting it happen and not saying anything. You know, they're just gonna have to live with that. I can't really say that, you know, we should be doing anything with them as far as like legal matters go. Now, the people who are standing up and actually talking about this stuff, you know, bringing the facts to light as much as they can, or much as they're able to get a hold of, and those who are just downright saying, no, we shouldn't go there, and I'm trying to do something about it, you know, those people, you should clap for them. You should really do it, because they're trying to avert a global disaster, for the lack of better words. I mean, this is going to be, you know, 1 mile-high shit clusterfuck, dude. And, you know, once you're in it, there's no getting out of it. And if we get in it, I have the sneaking suspicion that if our economy doesn't crash beforehand, that it's definitely going to hit the tank bottom after we get into this. I mean, you know, General Dempsey even said, you know, if they stop the sequester cuts on the military, they may be able to do something. But as of right now, they don't have enough money to, you know, do what they're being asked to do. If that, you know, makes any any kind of matter. You know, let that sink in. It's one big mess, really, and I mean, I really don't see a way out of it unless we completely decapitate the federal government. I mean, you know, when you take into account who is getting us in trouble, who is causing all of this, you know, bullshit through entangling alliances and, you know, all this underhandedness, this, you know, corporate treachery and deceit and, you know, dishonor. It's mostly, if not all, on part of anyone who participates in a public office within the federal government, or, well, I don't want to call it government because it's not technically a government. Those who are employed by the United States Incorporated. We'll leave it at that, and that's going to be another topic for a video. The legal person versus the natural person. I can't remember the exact title, but anyways, yeah. Go corporate America. Start another war. Destroy the whole fucking planet. Good job, dumbasses.